I call Islam open civilization. Open civilization. Because this civilization is grounded on the concept of Adamiyyah, universal humanism, and its goal is to protect fundamental rights of all human beings all over the world, regardless of their religion, color, citizenship.
Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to another episode of the Markfield Institute podcast. I'm delighted to say that I have with me today Professor Recep Şentürk, who is the Dean of the College of Islamic Studies at Hamad bin Khalifa University in Qatar. He was the former founding president of Ibn Khaldun University in Istanbul, and Professor Şentürk holds a PhD from Columbia University from the Department of Sociology and specializes in civilizational studies, sociology, Islamic studies, with a focus on social networks, human rights, and the modernization in the Muslim world. And he's also published prolifically on many areas, including the recent book that he's just published, which is Adamiyyah, which we will come and speak about. But first of all, thank you very much, Professor Recep, for being here today with us.
You're welcome.
I want to start off straight with your recent publication, which is Adamiyyah. I have rights and duties.
Yes.
Could you tell us a little bit about this work?
This book is a summary of my research on Islam and human rights in a rooted way in our fiqh tradition, comparing different madhabs, how they approach the issue. So today, when scholars, explore human rights in Islam, they look at the Quran and Hadith. What I did, in addition to looking at the Quran and Hadith, I surveyed the fiqh tradition, looking at the Hanafi Mazhab literature, Shafi Mazhab literature, Maliki literature, and the Hanbali literature. Compare it, because human rights is a legal issue. It's a jurisprudential issue, and you cannot simply look at the Quran and Hadith to fully understand it. So when we look at our fiqh tradition, we see a key concept, which is Adamiyyah. Adamiyyah, as you know, it means humanity. Because the word Adam is an Abrahamic concept. Christians, Muslims, and Jews, they all share this concept. It's mentioned in the Old Testament, New Testament, and the Quran. So it's commonly shared as the father of humanity. So Adamiyyah, from Islamic perspective, entitles human beings to have rights and duties. So being a human being is enough to be entitled for rights and also to be charged by duties. And fiqh or Sharia determines what are these rights and what are these duties. So I should draw your attention that Sharia or fiqh legislates not only for the rights and duties of Muslims, not only for the rights and duties of citizens of Muslim polity, but for all human beings, regardless of their religion, regardless of their citizenship, regardless of their culture, color, belonging, sex. It's a universal law. So when I discovered this for the first time, I was doing research on human rights, and I came across with this concept for the first time in a fiqh book called Al-Hidayah. This is by Al-Marghinani, and this is a very famous advanced fiqh book in Hanafi fiqh. So in that book, it stated Al-Isma bil-Adamiyyah. Isma means inviolability, protection of life, religion, property, family, honor. So these are all protected. So these are the basic fundamental rights granted for all human beings,
Not just
regardless of
Muslims.
anything else.
Regardless of anything,
So it's you can like some people call this Islamic humanism or Islamic universalism. So this was really eye-opening for me. Then I surveyed the Hanafi literature. Then I wanted to know what the Shafis, Malikis, Hanbalis say about this. I came to the conclusion that all mazahib agree that all human beings are untouchable. But there's one disagreement. Are we required to enforce this all over the world? So three mazhab like Hanafi, Maliki and Hanbali, they say it's our responsibility to make sure that حقوق الآدميين, حقوق الآدميين, which may be translated as human rights, it's our responsibility to protect حقوق الآدميين regardless wherever it is. If any violation occurs in any remote part of the world, we as Muslims are responsible to go there and stop this violation against life, property, religion, family, and honor. But the Shafi'i Mazhab, they say it's not our responsibility to protect the rights of people outside our jurisdiction. So we are responsible only for our citizens, because outside, we cannot go and intervene. So anyway, there is a long debate about this with arguments and counter arguments. But let me share with you some citations, from our ulama. For instance, Ibn Abidin, this famous scholar from Damascus, he wrote in his book, Al-Adamiyyu mukarramun shar'an walaw kafiran. So a human being, Adami, is honored, protected, dignified, shar'an, legally, walaw kafiran, even if he is non-Muslim. And then there are many other citations. I don't want to go into details of it. Those who are interested, they can get the book and
there'll be more references there.
Yeah, all the references and citations are there. So this is the theoretical aspect, and then was this a utopia or was it implemented? And when we look at the implementation, we see that from India to Balkans to Andalusia, it was implemented. Actually, this implementation starts first by Rasulullah alayhi in Medina. I call Islam open civilization. Open civilization. Because this civilization is grounded on the concept of Adamiyyah, universal humanism. And its goal is to protect fundamental rights of all human beings all over the world, regardless of their religion, color, citizenship, So that, and Rasulullah started this first in Medina, where he brought together Muslims, Jews, and mushriks, the polytheists. So he, according to this document, Medina Constitution, it's called Medina Constitution by some people. So they made a polity, and their rights were protected, although they denied the message of Rasulullah, and they were mushrik, but they were granted these rights. So the first model of open civilization based on Adamiyyah was established by Rasulullah, and it's expressed in the Quran and also in many ahadith, and also in particular Khutbatul Wada', the farewell sermon of Rasulullah ﷺ. So, but later, Khulafai Rashidin, Abbasids, Umayyads, Ottomans, Andalusians, and the Baburis, Mughals, they maintained the same tradition of open civilization. Indian example is unique and important for today, because today people commonly know that Ahl Kitab is protected by Muslims and they are respected. But people don't know that non-Ahli Kitab also have the same rights. Except that like we don't marry their woman and we don't eat the meat they slaughter.
Yeah.
And so first it started with these Zoroastrians, Al-Majus. And when Persia was conquered, there were some Zoroastrians worshipping fire. So Muslims granted them the same rights they granted to Christians and Jews. And then later when Islam expanded to India, there were Buddhists and Hindus. So they granted the same rights to them as well. Why? Because they are Adami. Because they are human beings.
Right.
You don't need any other reason, to have these rights according to Sharia, according to Islamic law, according to our fiqh. So the philosophical question is, why Allah Ta'ala and Rasulullah granted these rights to people who denied himself, who denied Rasulullah,
Yes.
who denied Islam? Isn't this paradoxical? See what I mean?
Yeah.
And the answer is, the purpose of Islamic polity is not to impose religion on people. It's just to offer them the option in a convincing way. Tabligh, da'wah.
Yes.
Ud'u ila sabili rabbika bil hikmati. So invite people to the path of your Lord with convincing arguments, clear, convincing arguments. So because this is the purpose of the Islamic State, Islamic polity, messenger of Allah and all the ulama, so imposing religion is not the goal. Actually, imposing is haram. Is unlawful, complete unlawful. So the purpose is to create a genuine environment of test. That's the purpose of Allah. And in the test, everyone should have the freedom to err, to make mistakes, to do the wrong thing. Otherwise, they wouldn't deserve paradise.
Right.
Because paradise is a reward. A reward is given to someone who had the possibility, opportunity, and the ability of doing the wrong thing, but he preferred doing the right thing.
Right.
So he deserves the reward. And the hellfire is a punishment, and punishment is given to someone who had the possibility and ability of doing the right thing, but he intentionally chose doing the wrong thing. So because the purpose of life on the earth by Allah Ta'ala, this is the hikmah of Allah in the creation of humanity, is to test them and try them. So the purpose of the Islamic polity is to create a genuine environment of ibtila, imtihan, ikhtibar, test and tries, not to impose. That's why Islam, Allah Ta'ala, Rasulullah grants these fundamental rights to everyone.
Everybody.
So that's the argument of this book.
Okay, brilliant.
But I'm not studying only what happened in the past. Then the question is, we as Muslims, can we contribute to the current crisis of human rights in the world?
Right, yes.
In my view, only Muslims can genuinely defend human rights, because it's part of their religion, it's part of their aqidah, it's part of their Sharia, it's grounded in the Quran and the Sunnah, so they must defend حقوق الآدميين, عصمة الآدميين. These are the original concepts. Some people who don't know these classical concepts, they argue that the concept of human rights first emerged in the West and Muslims adopted it. But on the contrary, the concept of حقوق الآدميين, عصمة الآدميين, حرمة الآدميين, كرامة الآدميين, these concepts, in our fiqh books.
And do we see them in the very earliest works of fiqh?
Yes, of course. The very starting from Sarakhsi, Abdullah al-Bukhari, Abu Hanifa, this al-isma bil-adamiyya or ismatul adamiyin is a concept that can be traced back to Abu Hanifa, Imam Muhammad Shaybani, Imam Shafi, Imam Malik. So it originates, from the very beginning. Actually, these legal maxims this is a summary of all the ahkam in the Quran and the Hadith. They did not make it up themselves. It's just a summary, of what is there. So I believe, like Muslims, even everyone else in the world, abundance, human rights. We as Muslims, we are required to stand, for the rights of everyone in the world, because this is a religious obligation on us, regardless of who they are. We have to stand for the rights of everyone. And today I see that human rights are instrumentalized in the current geopolitics. So if defending human rights serves the interest of a powerful country, they bring up the issue of human rights.
There's an inconsistency.
Yes, but if it doesn't serve their interest, they don't care. So it's just an instrument, like a card, in a political game, to bring it up. But for Muslims, it is not like this.
It has to be consistent in every context.
But also, like, because this is an Abrahamic concept, I believe, like, we can share this cause with Christians and Jews to offer a global, vision for the whole world. And I conclude the book by calling to Adamiyyah covenant. Adamiyyah covenant. So Adamiyyah covenant, like refreshing or renewing our pledge with Allah and also with each other. So unless we renew our pledge with Allah Ta'ala as His ibad, as His creation, we cannot make peace between us as human beings. So this vertical relationship with Allah determines the terms of our horizontal relationship with each other as human beings.
And how do you see the ongoing debates around the notion of universal human rights versus culturally specific versions that are evolving currently? How do you see this?
Yes, from Islamic perspective, we should be aware of maratibul ahkam. Maratibul ahkam. So there are martabas. And I translate this to English as multiplex normativity. Multiplex normativity, like uniplex, duplex, triplex, multiplex. That means multi-layered normativity. From Islamic perspective, there are 3 levels of normativity. At the top, universal norms. And these are based on certain evidence. In Arabic, in our classical terminology, based on yakiniyat. These are ad-daruriyat, based on al-yakiniyat. So these are like axiomatic principles, undebatable, universal legal and ethical moral norms. Everyone must accept because they are grounded on al-yakiniyat, certain evidence, certain knowledge. Then we have a second level, which is the level of relative norms based on zanniyat. Zanniyat means like norms based on uncertain evidence. This is the domain of fiqh. This is the domain of ijtihadiyat. Ijtihadiyat based on zanniyat. In this domain, we have like different mazahib and different ijtihadat. So this is the relative domain. So we have universal domain and we have the relative domain. And then we have a third domain, which is the unregulated domain. It's unregulated by Sharia, unregulated by Islamic normativity. It's left to individual preferences and decisions. So this is the domain of subjectivity and individual preferences. And this is traditionally called al-mubahat or al-maskutat an. So Allah Ta'ala did not speak about this domain, not out of negligence or forgetfulness, but out of mercy and compassion for His servants. And the the greatest part of human life in Islam is unregulated. Let me give you an example, like food.
Right,
How
yes.
many rules and regulations about food? Don't drink alcohol, don't eat
Very
pork.
minimal.
That's it.
Yeah.
And there are like many other
different-
things, millions of things you can eat and drink. So you see the unregulated domain is very large. Regarding dress, just have a modest dress, then dress which color, which fashion, whatever you want. You see, like we have some universal norms commonly shared by everyone, and these universal norms apply to Muslims and non-Muslims as well, as in the case of the Hukuk al-Adamiyyin, rights of all human beings, and some of them apply only to like Muslim community, but then this relative domain and the subjective domain. So the modernists, they want to regulate all human life from A to Z, like this, socialist planning, like a fascist planning, this modernist planning, like a state regulating everything in one's human life, and then the postmodernists, they oppose this, no regulation.
No regulation,
Everything should be subjective, no truth, no normativity. Every individual builds his or her own reality and normativity. So this is a false dichotomy from the perspective of maratib al-ahkam or multiplex normativity. Islam allows universal norms to be commonly shared by all human beings, and relativism, which is justified by usul al-fiqh, and then the subjective and individualistic domain. So in classical terms, al-daruriyat, grounded on al-yakiniyat, ijtihadiyat, grounded on zanniyat, and then al-mubahat or al-maskutatun So these three domains. So in the second and third domain, local customs, cultures play a role. In the domain of ijtihadiyat, to a certain extent, if they don't contradict with the norms, and at the domain of mubahat or meskutan is completely left to local cultures, customs, and individual preferences. So some people, like who don't know this, like they go to Pakistan and then they go to an Arab country, they go to Balkans, they come to Turkey, there's Pakistani Islam, African Islam, Arab Islam, and then Euro Islam.
Yes.
This is true and wrong. Because it's true at the level of mubahat.
Right.
At the level of mubahat, Pakistanis have the full freedom, to practice their culture, to eat biryani and the curry. And the Turks have the full freedom to eat their kebab. And the Arabs, they have the full freedom to eat the kharoof, lamb. Because this is mubah. And the same thing with dress, same thing with architecture, in many other areas. But those who don't understand this system, they only focus on this domain. They say, which Islam? There are but they should know that Salat 5 times everywhere in Pakistan, in the Arab world, or in Europe, or in Turkey. Everywhere is the 5 times Salat. Alcohol is haram. Zakat is mandatory. See, these are universal norms. But at the same time, people are free to, design their home the way they want, their own dress the way they want, and the food and other things they want. So, like, this is very important for, like people who live in Europe or in America or in other parts of the world. So, they are allowed, and they are encouraged, to localize Islam at the but at the level of mubahat. You know?
And that is something within the
you cannot
Sharia
say like
itself.
we live in Europe and the Europeans they drink alcohol, we can drink alcohol. No, this is universal, okay? But the way you dress, you know, the food you eat, you know, the way you design your architecture, arts, you know, these are all mubahat. So at the level of mubahat, Islam is always localized. And this is the greatest part of our culture and civilization. So Islam is both religion and civilization. Religion is given norms, you know, which is the domain of yakiniyat and zaruriyat and ijtihadiyat. And then also civilization. Civilization is what Muslims, Ummah, produced based on the values we are given by Allah Ta'ala. It includes architecture, arts, music, food, clothing, and many other things.
You've written on the concept of civilization in your works from an Islamic perspective. How do you envision the role of Islamic civilization in contributing to a more just and peaceful global order?
Yes. Civilization is a concept Muslims developed first.
Okay.
Al-Farabi, he developed it for the first time. And he developed a discipline called Ilm al-Madani, in a science of civilization. Later, Ibn Haldun developed this concept even further. You know, in his famous book, Muqaddimah.
How did they explain this concept?
Ibn Haldun explains this. He says that Umran, Medeniyet, and İçtima Beşeri, these are synonymous terms. That means civilization is society, according to Farabi, Ibn Khaldun, and other Muslim scholars. If there is a social system, a social organization, these people are civilized. They have Umran, they have Medeniyet, they have İçtima Beşeri or İçtima İnsani. That's why Ibn Khaldun classifies civilizations into two groups. Al-Umran al-Badawi, which is nomadic civilization. Like nomads have civilization, according to Ibn Khaldun and our ulama. And then the sedentary urban civilization, you know, people who live in cities or do like farming, you know, and then the nomads. So from Ibn Khaldun perspective, if you have a political system, normative system, an economy, you know, norms, you are civilized. You know, you are civilized. So from this perspective, there is no society which can be called uncivilized. There is no society in the world which can be called without civilization or out of civilization. You know, so this pluralistic understanding of civilization is very important today, because today some people argue that there is only one civilization, which is the Western civilization, and everyone else who want to be civilized must enter and adopt this civilization. But from Ibn Khaldun's perspective, there are many civilizations in the world. Even the nomads,
they have their own civilization.
They have their own nomadic civilization. So we have to respect all these civilizations. So this is important methodologically, because Ibn Khaldun introduced civilization as a unit of analysis in social studies, in social research. So like Umran is a unit of analysis. So there are like levels of analysis in social research, like individual and individual relations. This is the micro level. And then like families, you know, tribes, etc. This is like a meso level. And at the macro level, inter-civilizational relations or inter-Umran relations.
Right.
Like, if you use the authentic term of Ibn Khaldun. So it's a new vision in social sciences, from Ibn Khaldun perspective. So today we need to revive Ibn Khaldun's perspective to prevent clash of civilizations or imposing one civilization
on another
all over the globe on other civilizations. And based on this, I classify civilization in two groups: open civilizations and closed civilizations. So open civilization is a civilization which accepts the existence of other civilizations and wants to coexist in a peaceful way with those civilizations. And the closed civilization is a civilization which sees itself only as the civilization, doesn't accept existence of other civilizations, and tries to eliminate and destroy all of them. That's the closed civilization. So Islam from the very beginning was an open civilization. Like Islam accepted Christian, Jewish, even Mushrik, and the Buddhist, Hindu, Zoroastrian, as we discussed, because it was based on the Adamiyyah principle. So, but this introduces, it provides us a diversity management system. I call it diversity management system, a pluralist system. And today, this is what's needed most, because diversity is increasing very fast in the world because of transportation, immigration, developing, fast developing communication technology, transportation technology. So diversity is increasing, but countries, they don't know how to manage this diversity. Especially some countries, they don't have any historical experience about how to manage diversity because they were like homogeneous, white, Christian, but then now they get a lot of Buddhist, Hindu, Muslim, Arabs, Turks, Pakistanis, blacks, etc. They don't know how to manage this diversity. But Islam has this rich experience to offer to the whole world, how to manage this diversity based on the concept of Adamiyyah and also this concept of open civilization from Ibn Khaldun. So if these two are combined, Muslims have a diversity management system to offer to the whole world. And this is what's needed most today, because today people say the whole world turned into a global village. But how are we going to establish neighborly, brotherly relations in the globe? That's what's missing. And Muslims can play a great role in offering or sharing first the theological, legal, ethical legacy, from fiqh, Islamic ethics, but at the same time, its historical implementations in India, in the Ottoman Empire, in Andalusia, in Africa, Far East. So this historical implementations also are very good, and humanity have a lot of things, to learn from Ibn Khaldun and his vision of civilization today.
So, let's talk a little bit about sociology as a discipline, because your research is bridging classical Islamic thought with sociology, sociological analysis, kind of the modern study of sociology. How do you see these two things maybe complementing each other, or is there a disconnect between them? What's your view on these two kind of areas?
The subject matter for social sciences is human action. Is there a discipline in Islam which has human action as its subject matter.
As human action as its subject matter.
Like in Arabic, called this amal. So, do we have a discipline which studies amal?
In the West?
No, in Islam. Yes, we do. It's fiqh.
Oh, right, of course, yes.
It's fiqh.
Yeah.
See, but it's suppressed in our mind.
Yeah.
Because
it is about action, isn't it? Fiqh is action,
amal. Yeah. Amal means human action or human behavior. So we have like a modern secular social sciences, studying human action, and we also have fiqh studying human action. So their subject matter is the same. But what's the difference between them? Paradigmatic difference.
Right.
Their ontology, epistemology, and methodology are different. When I say ontology, their approach to human being. Like a fiqh approaches human being as a multiplex entity with body, mind, and soul. And human action is a production of body, mind, and soul. A joint product. And then this ontology, but also in general, fiqh accepts that there is Allah, and there's alam al-ghayb, malaika, jinn, ruh, and then the physical reality. So mulk, malakut, lahut, material world, non-material world, and the divine world. So that's fiqh cosmology and human ontology. Then when it comes to epistemology, fiqh accepts that the empirical knowledge and the rational knowledge, these are valid, but also wahi. Then when it comes to methodology, fiqh has its own method, which is usul al-fiqh, to study human behavior, human action. But Western social sciences, they are either idealist or materialist. They are grounded on either idealist ontology, epistemology, and methodology, or materialist world view. So these materialists, they focus only what they observe. So for them, reality is only the material reality, nothing else. And the idealists, they focus on the mental world,
abstraction, maybe something like this.
The subjectivity. Yeah. So, the materialists focus on objective reality. The idealists, they focus on subjective reality. Objective reality is studied through observation and empirical methods, and the subjective reality is studied through interpretation and understanding. So there's so much detail about this, but what's important for us is to highlight the differences in ontology, epistemology, and also methodology between these two sciences. When they study human action, they do the same thing, which is studying human action and regulating, because both social sciences and fiqh, they explain and regulate human action, but there is a misperception about fiqh, as if fiqh only does regulation.
Right, yeah.
But you cannot regulate something without knowing what it is. Let's say there is a new financial instrument, let's say cryptocurrency, is halal or haram. First, you have to understand what's cryptocurrency. Or let's say there is a medical operation, is halal or haram. You have to know what is this. So. Without knowing, you cannot issue a fatwa or you cannot make an ijtihad about this. But this is in the background in our fiqh. And on the other hand, those social scientists, they make a false claim that they do only explanation, no regulation, or description, no prescription.
Right.
But this is a complete lie. Show me a great social scientist who did not talk about how things should be. Like Anthony Giddens, like you have this, like most recent, like a famous sociologist from Britain, or Durkheim, or Marx, or Weber, or Parsons in America. Which one did not talk about how things should be? But when it comes to introducing their discipline in Sociology 101, they say, this discipline is only about how things are. It's only about explanation.
Description.
Yeah, description. like, is there any economist who doesn't talk about how economy should be? Is there a political scientist who does not talk about how politics should be? So this is not, in reality, but there's such a common illusion that social sciences only talk, they are objective and they only talk about the description. They don't do any prescription. So prescription and description, explanation and regulation, they cannot be separated from each other at all. So we had fiqh, and still we have fiqh to study, human action. But there was a transition in the Muslim world among Muslim intellectuals from fiqh to social sciences. And I have a book dedicated to studying this transition. It's titled Modernization and Societal Science in the Muslim World. Like how this transition took place in the Muslim world, especially in Turkey and Egypt. How this Western science was transplanted from the West to Muslim world to replace fiqh. But today fiqh was not replaced. They could not do it. But there's a confusion.
Right. Yes.
Like which method you are using, how you are using. So there is this confusion, and in my view, that's the most important dialectic, the line of conflict, or the cleavage in Muslim intellectual life today. If you are not clear about this methodology, you cannot produce any idea. And the identity of intellectuals comes from the method they are using. So what makes Marxist a Marxist? Because he uses dialectical materialism. What makes a phenomenologist? Because he uses phenomenology as a method. So you as a Muslim, which method do you use in analyzing social issues? Do you use methods you borrowed from Western social sciences, or you use methods which is rooted
within the
in
Islamic
tradition, intellectual tradition, like usul al-fiqh, usul al-hadith, etc. So I wrote a book on comparative theories and methods, where I compared, the methods Muslims developed, like usul al-fiqh, usul al-hadith, usul tafsir, and other methods, and the methods developed by the Western social scientists, drawing attention to the paradigmatic pre-commitments and assumptions regarding ontology, epistemology, and methodology in both domains. So this book may also help if people want to get a deeper understanding of these issues.
Brilliant, thank you. I want to take a step back now. You've held a lot of leadership positions in higher education, so you're very experienced in this field in Turkey and now in Qatar. You were the president of Ibn Khaldun University and the founder of the university, and you've been at the forefront of shaping an institution with a unique academic vision. Could you tell us a little bit about the reason you set this up, and maybe a little bit about the educational landscape and the way you see things?
Yeah. In order to address this question, we need to first ask ourselves, what is education for? What's university for? What are schools for? So education and schools are there to raise the ideal individual of that particular culture, of that particular country or civilization or religion. Like Chinese education produces ideal Chinese. Russian, ideal Russian. German education produces ideal German. How about education in the Muslim world? Do they produce ideal Muslim? There's an ambiguity.
There's a question mark.
There's a question about this. So we need to tackle, with this issue. So today, outside the West, the role of universities is to westernize, modernize those countries. Their primary role is not academic or scientific. like in Africa, Latin America, India, Pakistan, the goal of education is not to raise like Nobel Prize winners, just to educate like individuals who are westernized, modernized, but at a very superficial level, so that they can be good consumers of Western culture and the products. So this issue needs to be addressed, and this type of education relies importing knowledge from the West and marketing it in their local context. So all the textbooks, all the theories, all the methods, these are all like produced in Western countries. They are imported, and the task of universities in the Muslim world, Africa, Latin America, like India, everywhere, just to distribute the knowledge produced in the West. So this is what I call intellectual dependency. So the current education system in the non-Western world makes non-Western world intellectually, academically dependent on the West. So the purpose of our education system should be making our societies intellectually, academically independent by producing knowledge production. And this knowledge production is not only for Muslims or for non-Western people, but for the whole world. We should not be only consumers of knowledge produced by the West. We should contribute to human civilization in general by producing knowledge. If we want to be like dignified, respectful members of the humanity, so that's why the motto of Ibn Haldun University, intellectual independence. Intellectual independence, and this intellectual independence can come through rooted revival. Like we need to be rooted in our civilization, in our culture, and unearth what's available there, but we cannot replicate that. We have to revive it. So Ibn Khaldun is a symbol of a social scientist who's respected by everyone in the world. So he's a non-Western scholar, respected by the Westerners and non-Westerners. So he's a symbol, and we need like more Ibn Khalduns today, and his legacy needs to be revived, revisited today, and should be the starting point to offer an alternative science, especially social science, grounded in our own ontology, epistemology, methodology, this multiplex worldview. And I believe that this legacy will be very useful and helpful, not only for Muslims, but the whole world, because social science today, they are in crisis, and the Muslims, should make an effort not to be only the consumers of knowledge, but producers of knowledge. And our universities, whether in Turkey or in Qatar or in Pakistan or in Malaysia or in Africa, should aim produce knowledge.
Right. So the emphasis would be on research then, PhDs.
Yes.
That would be would that be more
Yes.
the focus of things?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, good. So looking ahead now, we've had a great conversation. Looking ahead, what emerging areas of research within Islamic studies do you believe are the most important or critical for scholars to focus on? Like looking forward, especially in light of new trends, geopolitical shifts, what do you think, somebody listening, what are the areas that you think are the most important to focus on at the moment?
Today, I see that in the field of Islamic studies, there is a big danger. Those who do Islamic studies, they adopt methods from social science disciplines or from literature and implement them in studying Islam. So Islamic studies at the moment doesn't have its own methods. That's why I call it parasite. Parasite,
Parasite.
But this applies to other regional studies,
Right.
like African studies, Chinese studies, etc. These regional studies, they don't have their own methods. They borrow
It's
methods.
done through the lens of another kind of paradigm.
Another discipline.
Right, yeah.
So, like today, people who study Islam, they adopt a method developed originally either by anthropology or sociology or literary studies, from any discipline, and then they apply it to the subject they are studying. But Islamic disciplines, they have their own methods. Like there is usul fiqh, there is usul hadith, usul tafsir, like there are methods, Muslims developed. These are the authentic and genuine methods of those disciplines. So when you study a fiqh subject, are you going to use, a method you borrow from anthropology or sociology or economy, or literary critique, or you are going to use usul fiqh in your research when you write your paper, your thesis, etc. So this is, I think, critical for Islamic studies to how should I say, to maintain their identity as a separate discipline with its own distinct methods. Like anthropologists, they have their distinct methods.
Yeah.
Sociologists, they have their methods. Economists, they have their methods. And the future success of Islamic studies depends whether or not they will have their own distinct methods compared to other disciplines, or they will be colonized, by, let's say, anthropology, by sociology, by literary critique, and this colonization, will end up subsuming Islamic studies under anthropology or sociology, or like any other discipline. It will lose its distinct identity. So how we can protect, Islamic studies to be colonized, by these other disciplines. It is by reviving the methods those disciplines already have. Like usul fiqh, I think is very important. Usul hadith is very important. But these methods, they are usually misunderstood. So like a few months ago, some PhD student came to me. His PhD thesis was about how can we combine social scientific methods and fiqh methods, and how can fiqh benefit from social sciences? I said this is wrong approach. Your approach should be, reviving fiqh methods. This is already there, and this PhD student said, but fiqh doesn't have empirical methods, and empirical methods, social sciences have. I said, this is complete misunderstanding because in fiqh we have urf, for instance, like a customs, you know, as a source of norms. So how do you know whether something is urf or not? You need to do field work.
Yeah.
You know, and we have like a set zaraya, you know,
blocking the means to something.
Looking at the future outcome and trying to predict, you know, what's going to happen. You know, so this is very empirical, right? And then there are many other methods. You know, these are all empirical methods. And actually, one day I was with a sheikh, you know, and some young people. You know, we were like having sohbet, and one of the young students asked the sheikh. He said, "What's the hukum, you know, ruling in Sharia to follow traffic rules?"
Right.
And the sheikh said, "Some is fard, some is wajib, some is sunnah."
Yeah.
And the student, he was shocked, you know. He said, "What's your dalil? You know, what's your evidence?"
Yeah.
And the sheikh said, "Tajriba."
Experience.
You know, experience.
Yeah.
So if something is proven by experience that is necessary to do, you know, it becomes mandatory on Muslims. You don't need to look at the Quran or Hadith, you know, for because the student was expecting the sheikh will cite
say a
some
verse
ayat
or a hadith or something. Yeah.
So just tajriba, you know, experience. So it's enough. So this is real fiqh, you know, real fiqh, and it's a good, you know, example, you know, how fiqh is like more realistic and deals with the lived experiences of people. So like one day, one student came to me. He said like he wants to like a PhD topic, and this was in Istanbul. I said like go to like a square in Üsküdar, observe people and the streets. You will get many topics for your fiqh thesis. I told him like go and spend 1 hour like wandering around, just making observations. You know, is there any fiqh topic? You know. And then after 1 hour, he came back. He said, "Professor, I haven't seen any fiqh topic in all these streets." I said, "My friend, didn't you see traffic? You know, doesn't this require fiqh, you know, like regulation? Didn't you see all these like advertisements on the walls? You know, like don't you need like a fiqh, you know, like rules for advertisement? Like, can you like exaggerate? Can you use like you know, like the improper pictures, etc.?" And then like all these shops and then etc. etc. And then he said, "Oh, professor, this is very complicated. I want to go to the library and study the views of past faqih from the manuscripts, and this will be much easier for me." So like these disciplines, unfortunately, they are detached, you know, from the reality we are living in. We need to revive them by linking them to the reality we are living in. And this is what I call like a rooted revival or a tajdid al-mu'assal. You know, in any effort for reform or renewal without rootedness will eventually lead, you know, corrupting religion, or any effort like for rootedness without revival, without tajdid, will cause freezing, you know, freezing our thinking. So I think Islamic studies, you know, should adopt, you know, a rooted revival for intellectual independence.
Brilliant.
You know, and this should be done through multiplex paradigm.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much, Professor
You're
Şentürk, for having us. We are out of time, but thank you for having us, and we hope to see you soon.